Good evening on this 18th day of February 2020. This is Metropol TV, Kenya's 24 hours business channel. My name is Simba Elijah Charles Kiage. Let's begin with a look at the day's top stories on Metropol Primetime News. The National Treasury slams the brakes on big public spending as it trims public spending in the next fiscal year by 23.6% to 2.7 trillion shillings. Safaricom targets 2 million new subscribers as it rolls out 2 new prefix numbers. And on this week's edition of Trailblazers, we eat out at a restaurant in Nairobi that employs deaf waiters. Apple warns iPhone shortages across the world as the coronavirus slows down its manufacturing operations in China. Thank you for investing your time with us here at Metropol TV. Our sign language interpreter is Winnie Adoyo. Let's begin the bulletin. The National Treasury has slammed the brakes on big public spending and lowered public spending in the next fiscal year by nearly 24%. According to the 2020 budget policy statement, the 2020-2021 national budget has been capped at 2.7 trillion shillings, with development spending having been slashed by 19.6% to 587.3 billion shillings.
Our budget has been incremental. You look at what you allocated last year, and then based on that, you make preparation or projection for the future. That is no more. It has to be need-based and done in a sustainable manner within the context of a broad economic outlook. All allocations, whether current or capital expenditures, are critically reviewed to ensure that they are in accordance with the government's strategic priorities, including the Big Four agenda.
In about 4 months from now, the Cabinet Secretary to the National Treasury, Ukur Yatani, is expected to read the annual budget statement that will outline the spending and taxation measures to be implemented during the 2020-2021 fiscal year that will begin in July. But the annual ritual has, over the last 7 years, seen public spending and budget deficits expand to levels that the National Treasury CS now concedes to be unsustainable. The Treasury Board's determination to tame public spending has now found formal expression in the 2020 budget policy statement, which proposes to cut down the national budget by 23.6% to 2.74 trillion shillings. Recurrent spending for the 2020-2021 has been capped at 1.78 trillion shillings, denoting a 1.2% increase from the 2019 recurrent budget of 1.76 trillion shillings. Development spending will, however, go down by 19.6% to 587.3 billion shillings. County governments will also have to make do with less funding from the national government, as the National Treasury will transfer just under 375 billion shillings compared to the current fiscal year's 378.3 billion shillings. The contingency fund will remain unchanged at 5 billion shillings. With regard to how the 2.7 trillion shillings budget will be financed, the National Treasury aims to collect 2.13 trillion shillings, out of which the Kenya Revenue Authority will be expected to collect 1.85 trillion shillings. This is slightly below the current target of 1.87 trillion shillings, which the taxman has missed by 33.3 billion shillings. Appropriations in aid, which refers to revenues collected at source by individual ministries, departments and agencies, have been projected at 277.4 billion shillings. In this regard, Expenditures as a share of Kenya's gross domestic product are projected to decline from 26% in the financial year 2018-2019 to 23.6% in the 2020-2021 fiscal year, and further to 21.8% in the financial year 2023-2024. On the other hand, revenues as a share of GDP are projected to remain at 18.4% in the medium term. The Treasury will, however, be faced with a financing gap of 571.2 billion shillings, equivalent to 4.9% of GDP in the 2020-2021 fiscal year, a 13% reduction from the current deficit of 657.3 billion shillings. This is how that gap will be financed. The Treasury intends to borrow 345.1 billion shillings from foreign sources. 222.9 billion shillings will be borrowed domestically. The government is currently implementing a raft of tax policy measures through the Tax Amendment Law and Finance Act 2019 that are expected to yield an extra 62.1 billion in tax revenues. Further, the newly established Public Investment Management Unit at the National Treasury is expected to streamline the initiation, execution, and delivery of public investment projects. It will also be required to curtail runaway project costs, eliminate duplications, and improve working synergy among implementation actors for timely delivery of development projects, measures that the National Treasury says will put the country's finances onto a more realistic path to growth. Ingrid Nantege, Metropol TV.
Ingrid Nantege. Listed mobile telecom Safaricom has set out to net in an additional 2 million subscribers with the introduction of 2 new prefixes. The telco has introduced SIM cards with the 0110 and 0111 prefixes that will be available free of charge. Customers will, however, be required to activate the lines with a top-up of 50 shillings airtime. Safaricom's Chief Customer Officer, Sophia Mulenge, has said in a statement that the new prefixes were allocated by the Communications Authority of Kenya in 2019 after the exhaustion of the 07XX prefixes. Mulenge added that the telecom will continue investing in additional enhancements and services to better meet the needs of the customers and provide them with even more freedom and flexibility. Safaricom currently has over 34.5 million customers. Staying on the corporate front, Longon Publishers recorded a 4% increase in its pre-tax profit for the half-year period ended 31st December 2019 compared to a similar period last year. Longon Publishers' profit before tax stood at 92.8 million shillings during the half-year period ended 31st December 2019, up from 90.1 million shillings during the same period in 2018. Now, the growth was mainly attributed to the significant rise in sales of the publisher's reference products such as the Kamusi Karne and the Comprehensive Atlas due to improvements made to the products and an aggressive market push. The sales of the competency-based curriculum products and the new secondary school revision encyclopedias continue to rise, further boosting the company's performance in Kenya. Longon's regional markets of Tanzania and Uganda also recorded a revenue growth of 21% and 15% respectively. Meanwhile, small and medium enterprise private equity fund investor Ascent Rift Valley Fund has acquired Metropol Plastics Kenya, a local manufacturer of plastic water pipes and electrical conducts. Announcing the deal, David Obino, partner at Ascent Capital Advisory Services LLP, said that the investment will focus on expanding the range of products manufactured by Metro Concepts and Africa, as well as expanding its presence in the region. Now, the deal is Ascent Rift Valley Fund's third investment in Kenya, having invested previously in Kisumu Concrete Products and Auto Springs East Africa Limited, a motor assembly and vehicle spare parts maker. Now, to delve deeper into Ascent Rift Valley Fund's investment strategy in Kenya, I am joined on Metropol Primetime News by Wanjiru Waithaka, the investment director at Ascent Rift Valley Fund. Welcome to Metropol News.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Glad to have you around. I just want us to delve directly into this piece of announcement. Everybody will want to know, why are we talking about this specific company?
Metroplast, rather Bestro Concepts, is the leading manufacturer of pipes, fittings, and gutters in Kenya, as you mentioned. And we see the opportunity to grow this business further to become a very big business, especially covering the East African market. Currently, its main market is in Kenya.
Yes.
So we see an opportunity for it to grow into Uganda, into Tanzania, into Rwanda. The business has been in operation for 30 years. It has been well run in the past, but there are also opportunities to make it better, introduce technology, just fix some of the hitches in quality, produce better products, and just basically serve a broader market.
Yes.
But back to the reason Ascent looked at the deal initially is just in line with its mandate. The fund has an investment mandate to invest in SMEs, which we believe in this market are the backbone of the economy.
Yes.
So if the products that the SMEs produce, seeing as they serve a larger market, then there's always going to be markets, especially like if you look at construction, real estate, people need housing. That's a given. There's a push for affordable housing. So if you look at the optics of the deal, there's a big market for what the company is producing, and we feel that it's the growth we can anchor on and actually make the business quite big.
Yes. What is going on in the economy right now, Wanjiru, is that everybody's talking about SMEs being a high-risk segment of the economy to invest in. Why is there a specific focus of your fund really on SMEs when everybody pretty much is trying to run away from it?
You can't discount the fact that they are the backbone of the economy, right?
Yes.
The key thing is in identifying the SMEs that, as I said, serve a larger market.
Yes.
If you can identify an SME that, say, serves maybe 50% of the market, these are goods that everybody, one or another, will need.
Yes.
So given whether it's today or tomorrow, they will need these products. So that is the space we look to invest in. We don't necessarily invest in, say, tech ventures, right?
Yes.
Because the off chance or the chance of one succeeding, who knows? But when it comes to like manufacturing entities, these are products that are going to be needed. We've made similar investments in FMCG goods because these are goods that people will require for the near future.
Yes.
Yes, and I feel just from that, the risk there is a bit less.
Yes.
Yes.
What goes behind this investment that we're talking about here? Is it because you've been given a sort of like a green light from the other investments that you made in the country, or this is a specific case that should be treated on a totally different understanding?
Well, I would say the real estate and construction sectors, it's an attractive sector.
Yes.
No matter the talk going around about the glut and the bubble, there's a lot of talk about that.
Yes.
But we generally believe, the question is who does this company serve, right? It's not mainly serving the larger part of the market, the upper part of the market.
Yes.
It's serving the broader market. These are people who are constructing even the small houses, right?
Yes.
Up country in Kisumu, in Mombasa, not specifically, or rather the investment is not specific to people who are constructing real large real estate projects, right? So we feel that the market is quite big, much as the sector itself is facing a bit of a hit.
Yes.
It's the sector that we're looking to, or rather that is growing, is a lower market segment.
Yes.
Affordable housing, that's where all the money is going. There's a lot of private investment into that.
Yes.
So that those are the people we're targeting actually.
Yes.
Yes.
Another question that everybody is really looking at this investment right now is exactly where you want to take this company. I mean, it's the market leader for 30 years.
Yes.
You can also say that they've been lagging behind, isn't it? That the
Yes.
market leaders for 30 years.
Yes.
And when looking at exactly where your investment is going to, would you say that it's actually targeted to a specific area? Because we're talking about product invention, we're also talking about technology. So what do you really want to bring this company up to with this investment?
When you talk about market leader, that's especially in Kenya, right?
Yes.
We feel there's a lot of room for growth in other East African countries. We have partners there, we have the contacts there. So I think it's a place, or rather we can be able to move our products into those markets. That's mainly Uganda, maybe Rwanda, Tanzania. We see there's a lot of growth, scope for growth there.
Yes.
And I think that is a bigger thing, just to expand our market to cover a larger population within the East African community.
Yes.
That is our key thesis.
Yes.
Yes.
And I want really take you back to something that you mentioned about the real estate sector. In 2019, we don't really get the numbers. Everybody is saying, look, the real estate sector is in a correctional mood right now. So it's a wait and see. Pretty much don't run there. I mean, and this one is an investment in a company that is directly associated, or we can say it's actually within the real estate sector. What was behind it?
When it comes to this whole argument about real estate, I think there's varied opinions.
Yes.
But again, to my point, the question is who is our market?
Yes.
Right? Who is
Yes.
our market? People argue, or it is argued, that there's a real estate glut, but in each segment of the market.
Yes.
We have, say, upmarket Kileleshwa, you have downtown Kisumu. You
Yes.
cannot compare the two. Construction is still going on because housing is a basic need. And that's the reason why I say this investment still makes sense.
Yes.
Because whether it's now, whether it's 10 years from now, there is still that gap in housing. The housing gap hasn't been met.
Yes.
So these products will always be required. People will build. You need pipes for sewage. You will need conduits for electricity. That's something that we'll need. You'll need gutters for water harvesting.
Yes.
So, and those houses don't have to be this big houses that are actually just popping up everywhere, right? It can be the house that you build up country for your grandmother.
Yes.
You require those things.
Yes.
So I think it's just, the glut is specific to a certain segment in the market, in my view. Yes.
Pretty
so
much.
I think the market is still.
All right, and I do know,
Growing.
Onjero, this evening we're not actually going to get the exact figures. That what we do know is that we have a cap. It's between the 3 million USD and 15 million USD, isn't that we're talking about here?
Yes.
Which therefore, the only question that we're left with is, what other investments do you have in the horizon for adjacent?
Ascent is Ascent Rift Valley Fund.
Yes.
Has a mandate to invest in a broad range of SMEs. Not mainly those in real estate. It's just a coincidence that we have two in Kenya serving the real estate market.
Yes.
But if you look at our general portfolio, we have chemical manufacturing, we have FMC distribution, we have healthcare.
Yes.
So even going forward, we intend that whatever we just look at SMEs generally. If it's attractive, if it's a market leader, if there's a market for its products, then that's a deal we could do.
Yes.
It's a place we would like to put our money because we know that the fundamentals of the business are there.
Yes.
We'd really like to do financial institutions, for instance, do a bank or do an MFI institution. It's still, there's scope for growth.
Yes.
Yes.
Onjero, thank you very much for joining us this evening at Metropol TV.
Thank you very much for having us.
Moving on. With the current economic times and with the bumper job cuts within the job market in the country, it has become increasingly difficult to secure employment. Now, imagine how harder or much harder and complicated it has to be for people living with disabilities. But one restaurant here in Abobi has made it its primary mission to promote inclusivity and equal employment and exclusively hiring deaf waiters and waitresses. On this week's Trailblazers, we feature Palais Cafe, a restaurant that has chosen to economically empower the deaf by providing them with jobs that would otherwise go to able-bodied individuals. Let's take a look at that.
According to data by the World Health Organization, disability affects 10% of every population, an estimated 650 million people worldwide. In Kenya, statistics by the Kenya National Survey for People Living with Disabilities show that 4.6% of Kenyans experience some form of disability. This is approximately 2.2 million Kenyans. A third of this, that is 546,990, work in family businesses, while 722,026 do not work. It is against these realities that Palette Cafe has set out to change the narrative by integrating deaf people into the job market through employment as waiters and waitresses.
Palette Cafe is a cafe that employs the hearing impaired. All our service staff, waiters and waitresses outside are deaf. Other than that, we run like a normal company. Everybody with inability or disabilities are kind of pushed aside in Kenya. So we came up with the idea that maybe would give them the courage and empowerment to have an opportunity to work in a restaurant. And so we started from scratch, and here we are now.
Palette Cafe is one of the few, if not only, restaurants that onboard people living with disabilities. To ready them for their task, Amy says the cafe absorbs the staff, trains them on basic hospitality principles, including serving customers, posting orders, and customer service experience for efficient service delivery and a memorable culinary experience for customers.
What would be the typical interaction between one of your deaf staff and a customer who's coming? The customer speaks, the waiter perhaps is unable to express themselves.
We have a menu that we provide, then we have a notebook and a pen that we provide them with, and either they point at the menu what they want and they understand, or if there's an additional question that we need to add from the menu, they will write it on the order book and then proceed to posting the order.
Amy says in the beginning, it was hard for customers to come to terms with the idea of being served by a deaf waiter, but this has since changed and patrons are steadily warming up to the concept, something that Boniface Odhiambo, a deaf staff at Palette Cafe, attests to.
Initially they were shocked, but going forward they've actually come to really appreciate the difference in the type of people they're dealing with, and they've come to really acknowledge and appreciate, and they keep coming back and they say that it's a really wonderful concept and they really loved it. Slowly as time progressed, all together the customers started coming. They communicated by writing on books. It was really hard to communicate. Slowly they adjusted and they all worked together, and they placed orders by writing, and nobody had a communication barrier. The customers were all happy and the deaf were all happy, and they took care in their communicating and the sign language. They gradually started with thank you and welcome, and the customers were happy that they were learning sign language.
With many people living with disabilities shunned in the job market, Palette Cafe's mission is to give them an opportunity to make a decent living and become self-sufficient.
They've got families, they can pay their own school fees, their own rent, buy their own food, instead of being totally dependent and reliant on maybe their parents or other family members that they may have. Before, he was working in a kinyozi shop and he had a problem. Life was very hard. But when he started working here late last year, he took care and he added working at the kinyozi as well as working here, and life has become better as he gets a better income than he was initially at the kinyozi shop.
As international organizations call for inclusivity in the job market, Emi says moving forward, all sectors should strive to create equal opportunities for everybody.
So I think everybody should take into consideration that there is nothing wrong with anybody who has a disability or an inability, and each person has their own specific thing that they are good at, and it's good to allow them to blossom.
With proper training and patience, Palette Cafe today has shown us that it's possible to integrate the disabled community into the job market. They have done so through ensuring that they bring on board deaf waiters to serve customers at their cafe. And from the look of things,
It's thriving. From Metropol TV from Lavington area, Nairobi, I'm Ondero Oganga.
Agro-commodity traders in Nairobi are decrying a sharp increase in the price of tomatoes. Some of the traders that Metropol TV spoke to say they have been forced to source full tomatoes from as far as Ethiopia, owing to a shortage of tomatoes in the local market. Now, the shortage has been blamed on the prolonged rainy weather conditions that resulted in reduced tomato crop harvests. A crate of tomatoes in Nairobi is currently retailing at 6,000 shillings.
Initially tulikuwa tunauza nyanya 50 bob, tulikuwa tunauza 10 bob, hata sometimes 5 bob. Lakini for now bei imepanda juu cost of production imekuwa high. Tena mvua venye imenyesha imeharibu sana nyanya kwa mashamba, na tena transport cost imekuwa very high. Mahali watu wanaenda kutoa kwa mashamba, magari zinaenda zinagwama, zinaharibikia huko. Sasa yule ana manage kutoa huko anaongeza bei.
Wanasema imekuwa too expensive na economy iko mbaya sana.
Labda hizo zenye wanasema climate change, na sasa si season ya nyanya. Na ile mvua yenye ilinyesha December pia ili contribute sana because hazikuwa na time ya kukua kumachua na kuharvest. Sasa zenye tunapata saini za irrigation. Mostly ni za irrigation ndio maana ziko na hiyo bei.
Hatueleweki kwa sababu hii nyanya tangu last year mwezi wa 6 ilianza kutoka bei kali. Sasa hatujui ni kule mashambani ama ni wapi. Lakini sasa zinakuja masaduku ikiwa dogo sana. Ndio maana ina shoot haraka sana.
Kuna zenye zinatoka Ethiopia, lakini mostly kama hizo zenye niko nazo hapa zimetoka pande ya Masaini wenye wanafanya irrigation.
150 kwa kilo.
Nyanya tunauza kilo 200, kuanzia 200 chini mwisho ni 150.
Hata sales ziko chini sana sababu si kila mtu ana afford. Ukiambia customer bei yake anasema anaweza fanya bila, anaweza pika bila nyanya.
Tambo tulikuwa tunauza 3 mbao, 110, lakini si dogo kama hii, ilikuwa kubwa ya 10 bob. Lakini saa hii kwa sababu nyanya ziko na bei kali, ndio maana tunauza moja 20 shillings.
Wateja wanalalamika sana, wanasema hata watarudi kukula carrots na tomato paste kwa ajili bei ya nyanya imepanda. Juu ukiwaambia mtu anunue nyanya 150 per kg, anaona ni gali, anasema is a luxury, anaweza kudo away without tomatoes.
Wateja wengi wananunua tudogo lakini wanateta sana. Wanasema nyanya iko na bei kali zaidi. Hata kukula ni shida.
On the foreign currency market front, the Kenya shilling has weakened further against the US dollar due to dollar demand from merchandise importers and multinational companies, with traders now projecting the US dollar and the Kenya shilling pair to trade within the 100 shillings and 40 cents level to the 101 and 20 cents level. Let's take a look at the day's indicative exchange rates for various currencies. Well, that is your Metropol primetime news on a day that has seen the Budget for the year 2020-2021 slashed by almost 24%. My name is Simba Elijah Charles Kiagi. Good evening.